So, out of all of the suspects on that one page,
Mm-hmm.
that Marco drew,
Mm-hmm.
is one of them the one who blew up the battery?
I will say you have already met the culprit.
It's not helping, Geoff.
It's not my job to help you. That's not my job.
Welcome to the Comics Cube, everyone. Today I am with Team Lantern. So, Geoff Thorne, writer of Green Lantern, you have been here like 80 times before.
Yeah, stop it. Well, you don't get if you don't ask, and you ask, so I show up.
Marco, you've been here once before. Marco Santucci.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
And Tom Raney, this is your first time here, but the ironic thing, one of my first comics you drew, Silver Surfer number 59.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
That's
we geeked
awesome.
out on you for a minute.
That made an imprint on my brain because you drew Silver Surfer and Thanos in medieval garb, and
that was a fun
one. So you are no stranger to cosmic books, Tom. Is
true.
How did you get roped into with this madman, Geoff Thorne?
Jeff asked.
You don't get if you don't ask. Like, true. You don't get if you don't ask. I love Tom's work. He made a huge impression on me with Stormwatch, and I just followed it ever since. Outsiders, we already geeked out. Everybody go watch the show where me and I geek out on this. But I just loved his work, and there was an opportunity came up. I had an idea for how I wanted the book to look. Tom and I talked briefly about it, which was we wanted a very 2000 AD sort of British sci-fi comic thing, which I think we very much delivered in Future State. And it's just, he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. He's a fucking great artist. And it was my pleasure and my joy as a fan to get to work with one of my longtime idols, heroes. I don't know what the word is, but
making me blush.
Yeah. Oh, stop it. You're just good at your shit, man. Game keeps game. So, and I asked, and I said to the DC editor, they're like, who do you want to draw the book? And I was like, Tom Raney. And they're like, Tom Raney. And I'm like, yes, Tom Raney. Yes, fuck, yes. And they're like, all right, we'll see if he's available. And he was. So.
You guys did Future State together. Tom, did you, can you talk about the experience of working with Geoff for that first time? Because I know he puts in a lot of details that pays off towards the end.
And that's all appreciated. I love having stuff that pays off long term. And Geoff definitely thinks long term. we're paying stuff off in this that got set up in that, and it's awesome.
What did you think of putting together the Green Lanterns and the New Gods? Because when I saw it happen, I was like, well, that's an obvious idea that no one's ever done.
It's awesome to me. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, with the Green Lanterns being out there doing what they do, it makes sense that they would interact with the New Gods at some point. I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't happened before. And you got no idea what's coming.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Am I right? This shit's about to get crazy. There was a Green Lantern arc called Godhead, where they bumped up against the Green Lanterns and New Gods, but that was more like the New Gods came for the Green Lanterns because they had the life equation or something, and it's not the same thing that we're doing at all.
No,
and the anyway, yeah, it's. Both of these poor men, I write them, and then a cast of thousands, and then thousands of people. Please, Marco, draw the devastation of Oa. Yeah. Tom, 1 billion aliens no one's ever seen attack another 1 billion aliens that no one's ever seen before. Go have fun. Go on.
One of the many, many reasons I'm happy to share the book with Marco.
You know,
I apologize. I'm so sorry, guys.
Oh no, it's awesome. Yeah, it's great stuff, and it pays off. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. If it was just scale for shock, I don't think it would pay off as much. But this leads into big things. It needs to be big to get there. So
yeah, it's cosmic.
At some point, the size of the book gets doubled because, you know, why did it get doubled?
All right. The making of these books goes through a lot of editorial changes. When I first pitched the book, it was just going to be me and Tom. Probably Tom doesn't know this. When I first pitched the book, it was just going to be a Jon Stewart book. It was going to be me and Tom, maybe 5 issues. If it did well, then we'd do another mini series, and it was going to be me and Tom straight through to the end, right? But very small, none of this, like all that stuff that happened on the Sergilon planet, it was basically going to be a space Western, right? Jon was going to be off by himself. Some shit was going to happen on that planet, you know, and it would have been very 2000 AD. Like, if you've ever read a 2000 AD book, it was going to be gunslinging, aliens and robots, everything dirty. Like, it was going to be like that. And then backstage, a whole bunch of stuff happened. And there was going to be, at one point, the book was only going to come out quarterly. It was going to be 60 pages or something. There was going to be different writers on different story arcs. Then all this is because the deck's being shuffled at the editorial side. None of this has anything to do with us. We're all getting the received wisdom, right? Okay, well, there's a new boss. Here's what we're going to do. Oh, well, now there's another new boss. Here's what we're going to do, right? Well, remember that whole editorial vision we were going to do last week? That's not happening anymore. So I'm just like, oh, okay. You know, like literally, it was like a roller coaster. Will you use these characters? I had not thought to, but sure, you know, like that. So at some point it boils down to there was going to be me and another writer. I don't want to say who, because you don't like to blow people up. And I was going to do half the book, and that other writer was going to do half the book. And the two stories were not really going to dovetail. The only fixed point was DC had said something's going to happen to the battery where the Green Lanterns don't have powers, right? And then there's going to be one side of that was going to be this other writer, whatever that was going to be, and I was going to handle my side, whatever that was going to be. And that writer backed out at like almost at the last minute. So they were like, to me, they were like, look, we can throw in some other writers, but we've gone so far down the line in terms of story. What do you want to do? Who would you suggest? And I was like, let me just take both halves of the book. Right? It's simpler. It's going to be harder to get a new writer up to speed at this stage. We probably get into arguments because the new writer will have their own ideas legitimately. They may not agree with all the crap I'm about to pull. So, so I was like, look, I've never done this before. And they were like, well, would you like to take on, just be the Green Lantern writer? This was right before the big Brazilian announcement, like literally 2 days before the big Brazilian announcement. Would you like to be the Green Lantern writer? And I was like, I am a Green Lantern writer. And they were like, no, the Green Lantern writer. And I was like, it's one of those things where you have, I'm sure illustrators definitely have this. They have to take a lot of jobs, right? So you have to look at how many can I do? Like, can I add this one more spinning plate? You know? And I was like, yeah, but when is the next time anyone's going to ask me to write Green Lantern by myself? Like, is this ever happening again? So I said, yes. So now I'm doing two halves of the book, right? Which had been designed to be sectioned this way. And I was like, all right, fine, fuck. And they're like, well, because it's going to be two, this is a good segue, we want to bring in another artist. This was long before, by the way, Dexter Soy was even involved in the mix.
Yeah.
Long before Dexter's name gets mentioned. They're like, well, who are you looking at? And I was like, you show me some names. And they showed me Marco and a couple of other people. I was like, oh my God, who's this Santucci dude? Like, he's, holy shit, yes, bring him in. Yes, indeed, right? Well, they both have a Europeanish style, what Americans would call a European style. And it's odd that Tom has that, not being European, but because of the two halves of the book that were going to go forward, it was going to be a distinct, you know, they were going to be distinct, and I wanted them to be distinct. So like changing the channel on a TV almost, like this is this story, this is that story. They're going to one day come together maybe, but right now I want you to look at the page and go, oh, I'm looking at the Joe side of the story. oh, I'm looking at the Johns. There's no possibility of overlap, or did that happen to him? Are they on the same planet? I don't want any of that kind of confusion. And I looked at Marco's work, and it's very cinematic. It has a very, like I said, it's got that sort of crunchy European, more realism, less bombast style than what happens in a lot of American comics right now. Tom is doing basically his version
with
of
massively strong storytelling.
Yes, I agree with that.
Every
I
time.
agree with that. And both of these guys do that, like the facial detail, it for me as a half-baked illustrator myself, it is just nice to see this sort of level of crunchiness in the art. It's the kind of shit I like. It's the kind of stuff I buy. So this person, Marco, could have been 12 years old and fresh out of college or something like that, and I still would have been like, that's the fucking guy. That's the guy. So he comes in, and now I'm aware of his larger body of work. I just wasn't reading the right books, but it's a good fit to me. I love it. And I'll shut up in a minute, but the Dexter Soy thing came on. The Dexter Soy thing came on to me also at the last minute. I like Dexter's work very much, but he had not been part of the mix. They were just like, we're going to start out with Dexter. And I was like, okay, but fine. And so integrating, Tom was, I think, already drawing, and we were working on this stuff that we were going to do. We wanted to open up with a bang, but how are we going to integrate Marco? And I was like, well, no, it was actually worse. Dexter was like, this is a lot. There's a lot. I'm just sitting, man. There's a lot of all of these aliens. Everybody's here. There's a dragon fight. What the fuck? Right? And I was like, okay, well, let Marco do the sort of alien diplomacy stuff in issue 1. And again, it was clear this is what was happening inside the quiet, right? The quiet United Nations debate class thing that's happening over here. You're getting a look at all the characters you're about to meet, right? And outside chaos, which Dexter's great at fights and, dramatic, like all of that. So I thought it was, again, a good juxtaposition. It sets up the audience for what you're about to get with this sort of two sections of the book. Did that for 2 issues, and then the return of Tom Raney, and here we go. And that's the book. So now I can be quiet and listen to my man.
Marco, soon after I interviewed Geoff before the release of number 1, I saw you on Instagram post a picture of yourself with a Green Lantern ring.
Yeah, with the photo reference.
What was it like getting a script from Geoff for the first time? What's it like? And
I love it because, as you said, I'm used to work for European markets for a big part of my career, and usually I am used to work on very specific scripts, no Marvel way scripts, very specific scripts. And I love that kind of work because when a writer is very specific when he describes the scene and whatever is inside the scene, but also around the scene, it's very important for an artist to understand that, to understand the situation that I have to draw. So for me, working on the Geoff script is great because it describes so well the situation, the characters. It describes also the things that the readers won't see, but as an artist you have to know that to draw the scene appropriately. So for me it's great working with Geoff because he is very precise, a very precise writer. Absolutely, I love it. Maybe for some artists it could be a limitation to have all this description, indication. For me, it's good. It's very good because I like to be very specific. Sometimes I can also be a pain in the ass when I see that something doesn't work. For example, sometimes I worked with other artists, and sometimes that artist that maybe work in the same book like me with me. Draw a specific scene, and at some point that scene turn in my scene, and I like to see the continuity. I like continuity in the scene with, for example, for the look of the characters, for all this stuff. And sometimes if I see that there are differences, I go there and say, hey guys, it doesn't work because the characters don't have the costume in that way, or looks different in my pages in opposition to the other artists. For me, instead, it's very important that the work is very coherent. The coherency is very important because we work in how to say that? Sorry, I'm Italian.
Yeah, never apologize.
Because we do a sequential art, and it's very important that everything is sequential, is coherent, is consistent. And for me, this is the most important thing when I draw something. I study a lot the work of the other artists that came before me on that series, and I spend a lot of time looking for references and everything. And I have to say that Geoffrey is very specific about that, and I love it. I love it because when I ask for some information about that specific character, that specific background or whatever, Geoffrey is always there to give his contribution, to his references for that. And I love it. Absolutely, I love it.
Can you give an example of when he gives you something in the script that the reader won't see, but you have to know?
Well, for example, Geoffrey tends to explain also what the characters are thinking, what the characters have to express with the expression of the faces, and it's very important. And for example, in the book, there are some sequences, some pages where the characters speaks a lot, discuss about various things. And in that pages, it's very important that the character act in a specific way. So if the writer suggests to you what they are thinking, what emotion they are having, is very important for the artist for drawing them. So the writer tells to you this character is hungry but not too much. It's different to make the character too much hungry. For example, sometimes I tend to draw Joe too much with too much expression because instead Joe is very cold.
Right now, she's cold right now.
So it's a sort of equilibrium.
There's a thing both of these artists have in common, by the way. Many of my friends in LA are animators, and what Marco said is very true about the acting. A lot of comic book artists in specific are very key to the action, right? They want everything to be a fight. They basically can draw two expressions, right? Calm and right? And that's it, right? Maybe a smile if someone's about to kiss somebody, right? I needed illustrators who could really show expressions, like not just like basic anger, but like irritation versus anger, a little bit depressed versus truly sad and weeping. Like these are I needed artists who could act, basically. Both of these men can do that. So like they do it without me telling them. They do it. So then it becomes a conversation of what is the nuance in this panel, rather than, can you please not have them just grimacing all the time? Like they're not in the bathroom. They're talking to each other, right? So, but it really is that. And I think both of them have that. I really do think both of them have that in their own work, regardless of me. It's got nothing to do with me. They do it anyway. So it just made it easier. I knew I would have a good fit with them.
Tom, how do you feel about working on a title called Green Lantern and not illustrating anybody using the Green Lantern ring?
Just you wait.
I'm sure we'll get around to it. I tend to get on books that are a little bit left of center. They're not so straightforward quite often. So it's not too surprising to me to find myself in this kind of situation. Yeah, it's always a challenge, you know, and so long as the story's good, that's what I'm interested in. Like Geoff was saying, you know, the emotional content, the way the characters interact, the background stuff, all the fight stuff doesn't really mean much if you don't care about the characters. So there's a lot of buildup, and the buildup pays off. Yeah, so that's what I'm in for. Yeah,
I feel like there's a lot of things here that aren't being mentioned.
Yes, quite a few things. Yeah, we can't tell you, but I've been telling people, look, this is a 12-chapter story.
We are halfway through.
We are only halfway through.
Yeah.
And as Tom is pointing out, you have to set the deck. Like, a lot of the fun of this is we're not doing it what you expect. We just had a big Sinestro versus Joe confrontation. What was the confrontation? Two people on a balcony talking.
Yep.
That was the big confrontation. And in previous, the big confrontation was a little girl goes crazy and tries to destroy a planet. And you think, oh, well, Sinestro will just come in and destroy her, which he would have done had he not been busy having a conversation on the balcony with this other person, right? So the idea is to explode what your expectation is. And the whole John story, people, I think, really do believe, I keep seeing in the reviews, it's a backup story. I'm like, it's so not a backup story, right? You better pay attention, you know? We just revealed that Lonar is a player. He's not just some dude who pops up and gives you information. He's a player. And Tom's being very, very nice about not telling you what's about to happen. But there's a reason this is the halfway point. The last thing in the halfway point is, I'm here to see if you destroy the universe or not. Bum, 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 right? And then the next half is all about that. So if people have been waiting for some Green Lantern action, you're about to get all you could ever handle on both sides of the story. It's definitely going to ramp up and stay ramped up. Like, it's not going back. It's going to ramp the fuck up. Oh, the artwork is so tasty. I can't even believe it. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Marco, you are drawing people using the Green Lantern ring. And
yeah.
But Joe is a fairly new character. And
yes.
Kelly Kelly is 11 years old. So is it easier to be drawing these newer characters rather than somebody like Kyle Rayner or Hal Jordan? Or
okay. Oh, well, I think that is great drawing both Joe and Kelly. And I love maybe more Joe because she's strong, she's a cool girl. And I have to say that I love to work with the ring constructs. I love to create the special effects for them. I have to say that it's not the first time that I work on Green Lantern, because I worked on Green Lantern on 2018.
Yeah.
And I have to say thanks to Mike Perkins, because in that period where I was working on Green Lantern, I took a lot of inspiration from the Mike's work, because it tends to work on, with the gray tones on the constructs. And I think that is a great way to express, to show the constructs of the rings. And so I'm really enjoying drawing what Joe created with the ring. And what I like to draw her expression, her body language, and I'm really enjoying drawing on them. Absolutely, yes.
One of the interesting things to me about this book has been the fact that, there's that scene a couple of issues ago where John is listening to all of the news coming in about which Green Lanterns have, the statuses of the Green Lanterns, and it's side by side with Joe listening. And you guys don't draw the same or even really alike, but the style, the mixing of the styles is perfect. Like it's a cohesive look for one book, even though you guys don't draw anything alike. Like, how does each of you react when you see the other one's art?
I'm happy to see every time.
Let's start with Tom. Let's start with you, Tom.
It's always a thrill seeing Marco's stuff show up. He tends to show up in the early morning. So when I get up and get to my email, it's a happy day. It's a nice kickoff. It's intimidating, but it's inspirational at the same time. It's always awesome.
Yes, because of the time zone, when I finish work, they start. So it's nice, this thing. No, for me is a great thing to see the work from Tom coming in the mail all the time, and I'm really proud to work with Tom on this book, because I think that I can say. The level of the book, the writing and graphical level of the book is very high. And I think that is coming out a great story, a really great and strong and cohesive story and coherent story. And
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love seeing their work come in. And I'm sorry. Go on, Marco. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, I just want to say that in this moment I'm working on issue 7, and I really like what's going on. I really like. Absolutely. You love it.
Oh my God, it's gonna get so sick. I like it because Marco delivers work kind of as he goes. So we'll get like 1 or 2 pages at a time as I'm completed. Tom does these like massive info dumps. So it's like, I'm like, oh crap, like, because you can follow the story like in a weird way. So it's almost like seeing it. And just the little comic book geek in me, I love seeing the inked art. I love seeing the pencil art. I love seeing the fucking thumbnails. Like, I love all the stages. And one of the things we're not talking about is Mike Attia's coloring.
Just going to bring that up.
Right? That's part of the consistency of the book, because he's the one, he and I are the only ones that are doing both sides of the book and the letterer, but we've actually had a few different letterers at this point. But those color choices are so specific, and I learn when the illustrators give notes, like, can you do this to the color, pull it back a little bit? That's not right on this side or whatever, or can I get more of that? And there was one little sequence where we had a guest inker and on one of the books. All this is time related, and it's all because my scripts are late, and it's all because I'm doing too many jobs. I'm like, I said yes to like 9 jobs, and they're all deadlined at the same time, and I'm late.
Nature of the job.
Yeah, all my projects are all the jobs I'm doing, except the one that I have to show up for, like physically show up for, late. So, but it's nice working as a team in that way, because I feel like I joined a surgical team. Like, everyone has a specific duty to keep the patient alive, right? And so, like, the colorist is the anesthesiologist, I have these 2 great surgeons who do specific, like, Tom works on the knees, and Marco's really great with elbows, and I'm over here working on the, I got this little lung thing I'm doing, but at the end of it, when it finally comes in and it's fully lettered, I've watched all the stages. And it's just like, a lot of times I don't comment. I'm like, I feel like these poor guys are like, oh, he just awesome. Oh, that's fucking great. Like, Jesus, holy shit. I was trying to differentiate. I went and found a Google translator so I could say in Italian to Marco so that he could really understand, holy shit, but it's really like, it is such a, if only if only I could get the pace back up. it's just smooth. There's no ego crap. It's just keep the patient alive, build the car, whatever image you want to use. And I would ask you guys, like, because it's computer, well, no, Marco works classic. I don't know if Tom also works that way.
Yeah.
But all right, so you're self-inking, right? You're not handing off. For the most part, you're inking your own work. I was going to ask a computer question. Oh, dear God.
Oh my God.
Put
that in front of the screen some more.
You both suck. I want those pages. Oh my God.
I got a stack like this now.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The question's not valid then, because I was going to say, is it different now that you have these computer tools to ink your own stuff in the computer, but you're not doing that, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I prefer to work on paper when I can. Usually, about the computer stuff, I use that just for the layouts and the base of the pencils, because the digital art is good, but tends to be old. And I prefer the organics and feeling of the paper, and until I can do that, because obviously working in digital is faster, but is not better for me.
I agree. No, you can see everything with the line weights. That's what my basic question was. How are you achieving this sort of look? But clearly you were just doing it.
Yeah, the computer is good. Working on Cintiq or in digital in general is good for I think it's good for as I said, for the layout, for the base of the page, because I can easily change the panel, change the size of the characters, change a face of a characters and whatever. But when I go straight to the final render of the page, I think that the work on paper is always the best. And so it's more, as I said, it's more organic. And, I came from about 27 years of career. And when I started, there wasn't the computer for drawing stuff, especially in Italy, where we have a very strong tradition in classical. In Italy, for example, we work strictly in black and white. There is a strong school about that. And so I spent a big part of my career working in traditional way. And I worked in digital only when I have to go fast, but I prefer to work in a good velocity, not to rush. I don't like to be that kind of artist that draw 40 pages at more. I can't do that. I can't do that because I lost my passion on the work, honestly.
Yeah, you'd burn out. You'd definitely burn out.
I like to be traditional.
No, I don't think you should apologize. I think it's, what's the word? Speed. Well, look, it's the artist, not the tools. So if that's what you're comfortable with, that's the best. But I do think, and it's true of writing as well, you should learn how to write. You should learn how to write. It doesn't matter ultimately if you're writing on a long form, like a legal pad with a pencil or paper, or if you're typing on an old school typewriter or in your laptop or whatever. Know how to freaking write. And there's certain things about drawing, illustrating, that I do think you need to ink. You need to have actual ink in your fingers. You need to have actual paper under your hands, even if you ultimately down the line reject it and go strictly digital. You have to know what the brush tool that you're using. You have to know what that actual brush is.
Like what it represents.
What it represents. You have to know. Yeah. You have to have used it at least once in real life, I feel. So
you need that foundation.
Yeah,
everything builds off the foundation. So if you can do it physically, understanding what you're doing digitally is stronger. What your end result ends up being is going to be a stronger product, whether it's digital or it's physical or whatever. Having had your fingers in it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spill some ink on a page.
Yeah. And it's nice to have an artifact at the end. That's one of the reasons I like, working physically. There's a physical reminder that we were there, that we did this.
Man. This is real.
Instead of just a file that, that is so easily lost.
Yeah. I agree with that. And like, you saw my reaction to you guys holding up pages. Like, whether it's me or someone else later, someone other than you is going to have those pages in their hands. Like, I get those oversized artist edition books, which show the pencil and inked art. So like Jack Kirby art from 1963 with like the whiteout. You can still see the physical whiteout. And here's a place where they did like some tape is literally taped on the thing. And here's some zipatone that was cut in a particular way. And I'm just like, because you can sort of feel the artist working in that regard, whereas it's great to have the finished product. Obviously, it's not a comic book until everything's done. Like, my script is not a comic book. The blank illustrations are not a comic book. The uncolored illustrations are not a comic book unless that was the point of the comic, right? The lettering, it's not a comic book till it's done. But there is something to being like, if I go to conventions, I'm not handing out script pages. You know what I mean? Nobody wants a signed script page. Like, what the hell is that? Maybe a full printed out script with all of us signing it, maybe. But when you hand me that piece of art, I'm just like, you get transported in a way. Like, a file's not going to do that for you. So.
No, yeah, I mean.
Being a part of history at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Actually touching history.
You can watch artists work, but you're not going to watch writers work. It's just.
Well, here's what it looks like. Right.
So if you like the top of someone's head.
Yeah, exactly. If you enjoy balding middle-aged men looking down, great.
I always thought most of it looked like you were cleaning your house, and then you type a little bit.
Yeah, it is kind of like that, walking around. Oh, I need some coffee. Okay, let me think about that. I'm reworking a sequence in my head, not literally right now, but I've written the script pages. Part of the reason I'm slow and you guys get detail is like the opening sequence of issue. No, poor Marco. There's something that's going to happen in issue 9, I think, that I'm reworking 3 pages in my head over and over again. Like, I'll type it, no, this is unsatisfying. This is not what I need. Walk around. My wife will be like, I thought you were working. I'm like, don't talk to me, woman. I'm thinking, she's like,
you should know by now.
She's like, don't put that hand down, Jeffrey. I don't do that. And I'm like, fine. I'm trying to think of my secrets. Leave me alone. Right. But it's like that. These guys working with really good artists, and I've been lucky that on all of the books I've been on so far, I work with artists who I come back and I'm like, oh, okay, they can do this. That means I don't need to do this version. Crap. I can bring this version in and really, push. I do think it's unfair of me to write casts of thousands. Every time I do it, I feel terrible because you laugh, but like I said, I'm a baby illustrator at 50 plus years old. And I know drawing those, not everybody's George freaking Perez. Like, George will sit there and draw the bricks. And like, nobody asked you to draw the bricks, George. You don't need to draw every brick on Paradise Island. Nobody cares, right? But he likes it. He gets in and draws the cracks. He shows I'm like, no one's looking at that crack. There might even be a word balloon over that crack. No one needs to see that, George. You know where the word balloons are going to go. Why, So, but once you've established that that's a thing that you can do and you don't get any complaints back, like, Tom never said one thing. We never worked together. I think we talked, 4 or 5 times maybe on Twitter, right? I was that future state was literally like, page 1, we're in space, here's some spaceships. Page 2, cast of thousands, pirates fighting everybody. Not one blip. Like, what does this guy look like? Are you sure about the size? Like, how tall is this person in relationship to this other? Like those kind of questions. Never, Geoff, dude, really? Page 2? What the fuck? There's none of that. And Marco had the same issue when I was like, oh, and the battery blows up.
It sets the pace.
Right? Can we get a double page spread of the battery blowing up? I didn't get anything like, no, what are you crazy? What? It's just the battery blowing. I get back this and make, and I'm like, each issue gets more intense because I get to learn how these artists work, right? And to the specificity, the scripts will become less specific, not more so, because at a certain point we'll just be one, will in a weird way be one person making the book. Right? Like there's not going to be a lot of
telepathic communication.
Well, like I'm not going to be throwing in a lot of new characters. So you guys get to settle into drawing the people you know. Like the character designs, there's a little bit of me, there's a whole lot of them making up these people. And once that's set, that's set. Part of the issue with this run has been taking what's familiar and taking what's new and sort of swooshing them together and giving these gifted artist places to flex. There'll be literally lines where I'm like, well, it kind of looks like this. They got 5 eyes. This is a crystal structure. Go. And then there's other places where I'm like Marco was saying, okay, she's not angry, or she's only a little bit surprised or things like that, where that's not even a note I would give to another artist because I know they can't draw it. Like you can tell from their art, they can't do it. So you don't bother, you don't test them, you don't push them that way because it's only going to make them angry and unhappy and whatever. You just figure another way to write it so that it comes across in a different way. But with these guys, it's easier in that regard. But I feel like every writer should at least try to draw a bit, even if they suck at it. Just say, I'm going to draw 5 pages of a comic book, even if it's going to be stick figures, whatever the fuck it is, because even if you still have to write the horrible thing, that the person who has to draw it has to really draw it. It's not just a magic trick. Like it's work. So it has to be important, or why don't do it to them. Like I feel like I'm letting Marco rest. I feel like I'm letting Tom rest when I give them spaces where they're just drawing people talking, where another person might go, why are they just talking? They could be shooting something. And I'm like, come on, dude, the guy just drew a giant space battle where the planets were blowing up and, a lava monster was eating babies. Like, can he just have a conversation to draw for 2 seconds? Fuck, Jesus. So I'm hoping that we have ups and downs.
And that's where we shore up the foundations.
Yeah. But in terms of script specificity, that's early when we don't know each other. As we go forward, as we get more comfortable with each other, then it's going to be like, oh, it's Joe in this mode, or it's, John's in this mode doing this. And the artist is like, oh, got it, off to the races. And I don't have to worry, what the fuck am I going to get back? Like, he's really angry. Oh, Jesus, dude, why does he look like he's about to murder everyone? He's just mad. He's having an argument, I don't have to worry about any of that shit. So.
By issue 12, you'll be working Marvel style.
No, it'll never be that. It'll never be that.
Thank you.
It'll never be, there's a lot of going back and forth with artists and writers right now. And it's funny because I'm old enough, I remember when it was the writers would show up at conventions and people would push them out of the way to get to the artist. And then the Brits came in, and after Moore and Gaiman and all those guys, now it's kind of like, oh, the guy's drawing it, but really this writer, and I'm like, it's a juxtaposition of text and image. Very rarely do you have a book which is entirely silent. And sometimes those are great. Like Matt Wagner did a Grendel issue, which has 1 line at the beginning and 1 line at the end. And the whole rest of the book is just a poor man running for his life, never seeing Grendel, terrified that Grendel's after him, thinking he gets away. And at the very end, literally on the last page, Grendel puts a spike through his neck, right? And it was like, the first line was, I remember this is what, 1992 or something? I still remember it. The first line was, as to the problem of, let's say, I don't remember the character's name, as to the problem of Jeffrey Thorne, ... Entire book of this man running in fear, doing all this shit quietly to get away all over a city. He thinks he's completely escaped. And in the last issue, he's in this little room that he's hidden away that no one knows about. And Grendel's there with a spike through his neck, ... Eventually, I solved that problem too. And I was like, you know, holy crap. But that's not Marvel style. That was probably a full script, even though Matt drew his own book. There was still a very specific full script. Marvel style seems like it serves the artist, but what you can come back with is really disjointed story. Like if the artist implies a quiet scene, but if the writer implies a quiet scene, Cyclops and Jean Grey, having been apart for 7 issues, are finally back together. Right. And on these 2 pages, they get back together. Oh my God, Scott. Oh my God, Jean. And I give you a very loose plot outline for what that is. Then I'm leaving it up to you to describe what a romantic reunion is. Now, if you're 15, your idea of what a romantic reunion is, it's not going to be the same.
It's different
as a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to have a very different thing. And you're going to give me images back. And I'm like, well, that's not what I meant. Good Christ. Well, now I don't have time to do anything. I have to write dialogue to fit that, which wasn't the original intent of the scene. It's better that if you write probably a little less, like there's Alan Moore specific, which I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Because if you read those scripts, I'm like, Alan, no one needs to know any of this shit. What are you telling us this for? Right. But then the way on the other end is the Stan Lee version, which is basically artist makes up story. I come in and put in some cool lines.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between that is where it's supposed to be, where the 2 things complement one another. You know, again, I have great partners. This is a partnership. It's a team effort. I always say Team Lantern. It is Team fucking Lantern. You know, I'm not writing a novel.
Marco, I'll ask you first. Out of everything that Geoff has asked you to draw so far, what has been your favorite thing to draw? And who's been your favorite character to draw?
Well, my favorite is absolutely Joe. And the most favorite thing, let me think. I have to be. I have to check that I don't spoil anything.
Out of the first 6 issues, okay.
Okay. I think that I love the scene where Kelly arrives to New Korugar and start to destroy the city. And as I said, I really love to draw the different construct of the ring, because she starts to create construct using the shapes of his friend from Young Justice. And so it was a blast to create all of these big construct with, for example, Genie X or the other characters for Young Justice. And it has been a blast also to draw the very first scene from that I drew about Green Lantern on the #1, where I drew the Galactic Council. Yeah. Because I spent a tons of time drawing that scene, but I love it because I immediately entered in the story, because I drew this big image where there was tons of these different races, aliens, and in this huge space. And I love that kind of scenes and that kind of scale in a book. It was amazing for me doing that. And obviously, I have to say that I spent more time looking for references about all these races, all these aliens, instead of drawing them, actually, because drawing them, it was fun, but finding all the references, it was a really
I try to put sometimes visual references, because I'm not making up a lot of these things, and I'll find what I can, but I can't find everything. Like there's just and like when we talk about the book, and I won't jump in again, there's little Easter eggs for people who've been reading DC Comics Like
Yeah.
almost all of those species that get mentioned, all of the planets that get mentioned, they're all out of old DC comics. Like, so if you're an old fan of the books and you go, oh, Bismol, or, you know, what, I don't know, Durex or whatever the hell, like you pointed out, the planet with Doiby Dickles is the leader of, like, but that's not for a young fan. That's for people who've been reading comics for a long time, you know. Yeah. And the fact that an artist will go and do the research to get that species correct.
And it's great, right? Because it doesn't matter if you are a young fan and you don't get it.
Right.
It still gives you that basically. Whole cosmos.
Yeah. And Mark, on the other side, yeah, and Tom's making up a whole bunch of new species, right? Like there's bunches of new people that are now in the DCU that didn't exist before this book. And it's like, Tom, they're giant, they have 4 arms, they have this number of eyes. Go do your thing. You know.
Marco, I wanted to ask, because you were talking about the Kelly versus Yellow Lanterns fight. So that's issue 5. In issue 6, Joe is talking to Sinestro. That's all happening at the same time. Like, how does it feel drawing 2 scenes in 2 different issues that are happening at the same time? But one is this big giant fight, and one is these 2 people talking.
I love it because, as I said, we work on sequential art, and sometimes when you have to tell a story that 2 different point of view of the same story, it's fun because it's very important to be coherent and keeping in mind what happens from one side to another side. So I put a lot of attention to make the things coherent. For me, it was very important. But I like it because they were totally 2 different scenes, but I enjoyed them in the same way. Because as I said, it's great to show the action scene with the building that are destroyed and everything, explosion, construct. But it's also great to show 2 characters that speaks each other, because there are 2 different they offer 2 different
points of view.
Not only point of view, you are wait. Translator.
Yeah. God bless Google.
Yeah. Wait. They offer to you 2 different difficulties to show this kind of scene, because from one point of on one scene where there is the action, you have to think how to create the more dramatic scene ever. Okay, if you have to do a specific action, you have to express it in the best way to entertain the reader. But when you make 2 characters that are speaking, I think that maybe it's too more difficult, because when you draw something that you don't see every day, it's simple to make it maybe dramatic, doing something. You can do whatever, because no one can see a ring construct or usually a real explosion or whatever. But everyone knows how 2 persons that are speaking looks. So it's difficult because the people can see if you don't, you are not able to do that. So for me, they are different challenge. They are 2 different challenges for an artist, okay? But I think that the second one, the dialogue scene, maybe sometimes is more difficult. But for my luck, I have to say that I spent a big part of my career working in Italy on comics where the speaking situation were a big part of the stories. For me, it's very, I was used to do that. For me, it's not a big problem. But obviously, I try to make my best all the time, and I like to create that kind of scenes using photo references of myself or of my wife. For example, my wife usually is my model for Joe. And so I asked to her to be my model. She's not only a great artist, but she's also a great model for me. And I met.
You're also her model for certain things. So
yeah.
That must be so great. That must be so fun.
Yeah.
My wife is a civilian. We don't have any. We don't do none of that. None of that.
It's great to work with a person that do your same work, because she understands me perfectly, like I understand her. So since we work in the same house, even if in different studios, is all the time we call each other to say, I need a photo for this stuff. So sometimes I became her model, and sometimes she became my model. So
I am full of jealousy.
yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I have tons of photos of me that doing strange stuff, and Maria Laura do the same for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
One day I'll publish a book with all these photos. It will be a hit.
you know, the last time I talked to Geoff, I was asking him about the bright circle.
Well, wait. Tom, I want to know what your favorite is.
Yeah, Tom, same question. Favorite moment, favorite character.
It's a little different because I don't tend to think in terms like that.
Okay.
But I'll say with a caveat that probably the first shot in Future State where John's team came together. The shot of them just coming down the little slope there, getting it all together with Mike's colors on it and all that. Right off the bat, felt like we gelled it as a team. Then going into the regular book, seeing Marco's pages coming in and all that, again, it felt like we gelled as a team very quickly, and that meant a lot to me. It felt good. It felt good to be working with a group of people that were all on the same wavelength, going for the same goal.
Yeah.
And the caveat is overall, my favorite thing about it is the variety. The variety of subject matter, the variety of characters I'm working on, the variety of locations. All of that keeps it interesting for me and fun. Seeing Marco coming back with the wide variety of stuff that he's got going on, and then having Mike come in at the end and just tie the whole thing together in such a great way.
That guy's the beast.
Like Geoff was saying earlier with the medical reference, he's the guy that comes in at the end. He does the closing. He puts the sutures on. Make it all look great.
Can I tell you my favorite thing you've done so far, Tom? Because I love Green Lantern, but I love Orion.
Oh, awesome.
So that was fun.
When Orion pops up in Future State, I'm like, oh my God!
Hey, when he did, my directive to Tom, I don't have the script in front of me, was this is not the Orion we've seen before. This is close to what Orion really looks like, right? He's gigantic. He's godlike. He's got Kirby energy coming off of his body. Go do your thing. So just like the audience, I had no idea what Tom was going to do. There was no like, hey, what do you think about this design? Would this be a good Orion? There was none of that crap. It was just, here's the Orion. And I was like, the way he mixed the Kirby lines of the helmet into that's just his face. I was like, go baby, go. Like that is the shit. Man. My favorite piece of both of them is, well, recently, the quiet scene that Marco's describing. The thing that I liked, the shot of Jo when she's giving her big speech to everyone, I'm here and we're going to come for you. And then the panel where she breaks and she sort of looks off like, oh, fuck, that's a lot. That killed me. And the sequence in the most recent issue that you did, these are the quiet things. You're going to think it would be the big bombastic stuff. When John and Sakari are in the memory, and that panel of they're in it, they're out of it, and they're just looking at each other, those 3 panels, I was like, wow, that's sweet. Like, it's just these little moments, because you can see that there's a relationship there that we didn't get a chance to play out in the book. But I keep telling everybody, he's been there more than half a year. He's been living in this lady's house for half a year with her and her child.
They're good friends.
They're very good friends. Let's just say that, you know, and those little moments require an actor. They require an illustrator who can act. And I appreciate that.
Geoff, we know that, you know, I said the Joe storyline, the Joe and Kelly storyline had 2 straight issues where they were simultaneously happening. Meanwhile, John has been on this planet for half a year. You did mention time is screwy. Future state, when you say it happened like 15 years into the future, is it 15 years in that time?
I have no idea what you're talking about, sir. No idea. No idea what you're talking about. No, honestly, the future state thing was another. See, the problem with comic books right now is that you get on the internet and you'll say 2 sentences and then some person will turn it into this guy is attacking so-and-so, or this person has a huge criticism of that. I don't have any criticism. I know how these businesses work. And there's huge turmoil backstage with DC, right? Their editor-in-chief after decades, the big editor-in-chief got asked to go. They got acquired in quick succession by 2 different companies, neither of whom makes comic books. Okay. Bunches of editors were fired. Bunches of editors were promoted into positions that maybe they needed another 2 years to be ready for, but now you have to do it right now. There are fewer editors and more books. So that means each editor has more books to handle than previously, which means a lot of what used to be assistant editor duties falls on a creative team. Like, we have to police one another. We have to say, hey, is that the right costume from the previous issue? An illustrator might say, or that character is not colored exactly the right way. Or if Geoff said, no, that character should be orange in this issue, one of the illustrators, I might not catch that they didn't fix that. One of the illustrators is going to have to go, hey, wait a minute, is that the right coloring, Geoff? What do you think? Right? So the 14 years in the future bit, Future State was sprung on me. I was in the midst of plotting and writing just a Green Lantern book. Mm-hmm. That's it. Some of the characters that existed in the past as what you're seeing, right? Some of them predate even me pitching, like Sakari and Ilo. They existed long before I ever got a chance to pitch anybody, right? But once you have Future State, I'm like, well, what would happen to them over the 14 years? It couldn't be 2 years in the future. It couldn't be 1 year in the future. It had to be far in the future, right? And this whole thing with the battery blowing up, that wasn't mine. That was something the company's like, the battery's blowing up. You can do it however you want, but it's going to go, right? So I was like, 14 years in the future, yes, the dark sectors have accelerated time, but there are 7 dark sectors, and we're only seeing Dark Sector 1 in this arc. Like, one of the fun things about the dark sectors, and again, the book is seeded with lots of little things if you're a longtime DC reader. I've mentioned several concepts already that people are thinking are just throwaway lines or just filler. But as you're going to see, even in this arc, there is no filler, there are no throwaway lines. You're going to have to go back and reread, right? The artists know we're all ahead of the audience. Yeah. There are things that get paid off, and there are things that you think will get paid off, but I'm like, we were never doing that. We were always going over here. That we just showed you that to make you look over here for 5 minutes. Like, so the 2 lies that I've told is in the story, the misdirects, lies, whatever you want to call them. The 14 years in the future thing is not a MacGuffin, but even with accelerated time, do you honestly think we're going to make it all the way to that story?
Of course not.
Right. 2, like when I asked Marco in the 2nd issue to draw that starship that all the Green Lanterns are going to fly off to the dark sectors in, I very specifically said, Marco, make this look like the Enterprise or Battlestar Galactica or something so iconic, right, that everyone's going to look at it and go, oh, they're going to make a Star Trek book out of Green Lantern. They're going to look at that construct and go, oh, that's going to be neat. And we literally blew it up before the end of the issue. Right? So the idea is things get paid off that you're not looking for. Things don't get paid off that we've said, hey, look at that. So
I fell for that, by the way.
You're supposed to. You're supposed to. And these guys are drawing their asses off. Like if you give the right weight, we're all comic book fans. So we know like the design of Amira Khallan. Dexter Soy did that. And I gave him a note, make her look like Cher Thal from the Justice League cartoon.
Yeah.
Like straight up, make her look like that. Because I know how these idiots are going to respond to it. I'm one of those idiots, and I know how they're going to respond. Oh my God, right? And I was like, but Marco's doing a lot of work with her right now. She is not that character. She's just not hot. She's not hot girl at all. Okay. But if I know how the audience is probably going to react to an image, and I have talented artists in front of me who can actually deliver that image, I'm going to fuck with the audience as much as I can because everyone thinks they know everything. I promise you, Tom, you'll vouch. Do they know what's going to happen after the big reveal that Lonar's been hanging around with them? Do you think they have any clue? Okay, right? Okay. And what's happening with Marco's side? Like, people keep asking me about Kelly. Marco, do you think that they have any idea what's going to happen with Kelly?
But I will add, it is all playing fair. I mean, all the info is there. It's not just a rug that's being pulled out from under people. The stuff is all there, and it pays off. If it was just a rug being pulled, it wouldn't be as much fun.
No, it's real. It's real.
Then you're just taking advantage of people that don't know.
No,
it's a fair play mystery.
Oh man, I'm loving this.
I love this. So, yes. Here's my question.
So the 14 years in the future is not a lie, but we've already deviated from future state. I keep reminding people there are things that happen in future state that literally Joe is already a Yellow Lantern. Future state takes place many years in the future, which is when that first Yellow Lantern with Joe story took place. So that happened fast in the current continuity. Kelly has not gone to Mogo yet. So all of that stuff that happened on Mogo, like, will that happen? Maybe. Don't know. So will John get to that moment with the vanguard of the God in Red? We saw the head of RR U92 in this story. We saw somebody wearing his body as armor in the other story. Will we get there?
Here's my question. We have suspects as to who blew up the battery, and in this latest issue, Sinestro flat out asks Joe, "Am I a liar?" And Joe says, "Based on my research, you are not a liar." And Sinestro says, "Then I did not blow up the battery." Is Sinestro a liar?
Nope. Kelly's a liar. Sinestro's not a liar. Sinestro's a lot of things. He's not a liar. He's not a liar.
There's a first time for everything.
Nope. Look, I would not have written that scene that way if Sinestro was lying. Right? He would have just lied. He would have done something fantastic and bamboozly, to sort of dazzle Joe and make her think whatever. He's like, straight up, ask me the freaking question. I am running a planet. I'm about to take over everything. My enemy's like dead at my feet. Ask me your fucking question, please. Mm-hmm. Like, did you do it? No, I didn't do it. Why would I bother? I'm winning. Like, why would I bother with that? I'm already crushing. Let's go. You could be on my team. Like, the biggest baller move is, look, this little Green Lantern thing you're doing, you're going to get done with that in a minute. Come be on my team when you're done. You got skills, girl. I like you. You got moxie. Right?
So
Sinestro is what do you call it? He's lawful evil. Right? If you're going to use D&D terms, he's lawful evil. He plays by the rules. It's a hardball game. It's a hard game.
He's a true believer.
Yeah, he's a true believer.
Why do you need to lie if you believe everything that you're going after?
I am right. Why would I bother lying about me being right? Yeah.
So out of all of the suspects on that one page, that Marco drew,
Mm-hmm.
Is one of them the one who blew up the battery?
I will say you have already met the culprit.
It's not helping, Geoff.
It's not my job to help you. That's not my job. But no, Tom's right. We are playing fair. In a mystery, you set up the mystery early, right? And you set up the cast of potential suspects early so that all players have all the chess pieces in front of you. Everyone has all the same chess pieces in front of them. The other weird thing about writing comics, though, is you have continuity. So let's say that I had omitted Sinestro, that he had not appeared in issue 1 in the form that he did, and that later when we're trying to figure out what happened, that nobody mentioned Sinestro. Like, you can imagine the backlash. Why would they not think of Sinestro? Where was Sinestro all this time? There's all these dead Green Lanterns and the Yellow Lanterns are doing nothing? What's wrong with you? Like, you have to consider that there's a lot of time behind you, just like my ambivalence or hatred of Hal Jordan. That's a personal feeling. I don't get to have, hey, I never back away from that. That was me as a fan. I'm not backing off that. That's exactly how I feel about Hal Jordan. But that's not my job right now.
Yeah.
Right? I kept saying it isn't my job to like or dislike Hal freaking Jordan. It's my job to write a Green Lantern story. So if I don't use Hal, if I make Hal look bad, Hal still has a role to play. It's just not the one everyone thinks it's going to be. Right? All of these things are part of the story. But if at the end, as Tom points out, you look back on the story and go, wait, you mean the chair did it? That one chair that was sitting in the background in one panel of issue 1 was responsible for all of this shit? No, you've met everyone you need to meet. All the clues of what actually happened are already present. Every question that a fan has asked, well, how could that happen? Really? I didn't think of that. You know, where is Sinestro's daughter? Really? I have no idea. I never thought. I just forgot she existed. Come on, man. Come on. Like all of it's a matter of how long does DC let us run, right? So this is.
I love how Marco is smiling because it's like Marco
because he knows what the fuck is up. That's why
he just doesn't. He just can't say it.
Yeah,
I can't say that.
Well, the thing is, we don't have trust. I don't have trust because of what happened with the Hal Jordan thing, and we don't have trust as a group because no one's ever heard of us before, as on this book. Like that, no one's trusting anything. So they're waiting to see when we drop the ball, whether we're going to make some stupid error, all of that. Everyone's looking for the cracks. But when they get to the end of it, they're going to feel bad because we played fair the entire time. We played it exactly straight, very fair. You could have figured it out.
Hopefully they don't feel bad.
Yeah, they're going to feel great.
Marco,
yes,
Tom,
yes.
What did you, Tom, what did you think of this whole Hal Jordan thing when it blew up with Geoff not liking Hal and everybody jumping on? What did you think? What did you guys think of this?
It's the internet.
Thank you.
People are allowed to have opinions, and we don't all have to agree with them. Everybody's got their favorites.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be somebody that's going to have a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that is not the most obvious thing to don't show Al Jordan in this story. Good, using the other characters from Green Lantern, just because we have to do something different, something new. So it's good. For me, it's very good. Very different. I agree with that.
I actually do.
Motherfuckers.
I actually
That's
do
right.
agree with that because that's the reason that the book, like I started paying attention to the book because I was like, a writer writing Green Lantern who doesn't like Hal Jordan?
Yeah.
That seems insane. And now I'm interested.
It's a weird philosophy.
Yeah.
The thing that people kept connecting is if you stack up anybody's posts or tweets on any subject, especially if they're critical, like once every 4 months, I said one thing, the same thing about a character in comics that as a fan, I'm not a fan of. Not a fan. A lot of writers, really good writers, have tried to make him interesting. 100% of them have failed to do it for me as a fan. Doesn't mean all the other fans who like him are idiots. It just means I don't like him. right? But this is supposed to be fun and interesting. It's not a political activity. It's not church, right? No one's going to war. It's a story. It's
John
a fun
is story,
right? Well, I mean, no one out here in the real world. A lot of people in this book might be going to war. So I feel like there are a lot of characters that are carryovers from the Silver Age that are basically the same guy with a different costume.
Yes.
They're all the same guy, but with a different, they don't have any real personalities. People have tried to inject personalities, you know, and the tell of that is who's most interesting in their books? Who do you talk about most when you have their own books? It's always their secondary characters. You're always talking about their supporting cast. You're always talking about their rogues gallery. Well, if you're talking about the rogues gallery and it's called Batman, someone's failing. And if a bunch of writers have tried to make the main character interesting and you're still talking about the rogues gallery, then it's the character. No one can make the character interesting. Now, Grant Morrison just had 2 years on just how. No one else is in the book, basically. You know, our numbers are similar to, like, some months we're above, some months we're below, but and Grant's a big giant comic book star. Liam Sharp is a big giant comic book star. And here we are with our upstart crew, and we're making the same numbers as they are. So 2 things. We're as good as them. And maybe Green Lantern's a big enough concept that it's okay that we're doing something different. Just maybe, you know? I don't know what DC is going to do editorially. They might decide this is great, but we're going to now have another crisis. And it's, you know, all the Green Lanterns are now purple. I don't know, you know, and at that point, I would probably exit the book because they won't want my services anymore. But it won't be because of sales. There are clearly people out there that are enjoying this freaking book, you know? I think the internet is based on negativity a lot of the time. I think it feeds negativity. Part of the reason I came to talk to you on your show is that you don't do that. Your show is what fans ought to be, basically. I'm enjoying the hell out of this. I have little criticisms and I talk about stuff, but mostly I just really dig this hobby, right? But the internet, people, if I wrote nothing but I love X, like if I could do 2 months of just, wow, this is great. Oh my God, she was so awesome. This is the best thing that ever happened. No one would quote me.
No one would pay attention to you.
No one would pay any attention. There'd be no articles written about how pleased Geoff Thorne is about whatever. No one cares about that. They only want to care about what I'm shaking my fist about. Or if not, make it look like I'm shaking my fist about something. And okay, fine. But we're going to do what we're going to do. Our story is great. My team is great. This is a great set of characters. And what is it? T-Pain said this: if you don't like it, we didn't make it for you. If you do like it, welcome to the club.
Mhm.
And, you know, just really quickly for each of you, I know you can't tell me what's going to happen next, but can you give me like a sentence to hype up everybody else who's watching this about what's going to happen next? Marco, you want to start?
I don't know. You don't know what's
You've been smiling this whole time, like you want to say something about what happens next. So.
Well, I can say that what I just drew in this week hit me hard because I didn't expect it. I have to say, I had my own idea about the real villain behind all this stuff, but at some point happens a specific thing that will hit you hard. Okay.
Okay. Tom?
I would say you don't know where it's going, and we're just getting started. It's about to blow up.
Literally.
In a lot of ways.
Geoff?
We put the pedal down on issue 7. and we never bring it back up. Right? We floor it, and that car goes faster. It never goes slower after issue 7.
And it is 12 issues long, right? So
yeah. Well, 11 issues of real story, and then basically an epilogue, which will sort of not wrap up, but there will be one loose end that will be left after issue 12.
Just in case you want to continue.
I will promise you this. Guy Gardner will return before the end of this run.
that should whet some appetite. What about Kyle Rayner, Geoff? All right.
Seriously. Kyle's fate will be determined if we get to go to Arc 2. What happened to Kyle, I will be discussing with these gentlemen, hopefully these gentlemen, I want it to be these gentlemen, about what will happen to Kyle and what that will look like. But no point in discussing that until DC says we're going to get to do a second run. If we don't, I will be happy to tell you what my plans had been.
All right.
Now I'm hoping we do.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you, Team Lantern. That was awesome. I hope you had a good time talking to each other.
Absolutely.
This was great.
It was good to get together.
Yeah. So pleased to meet you guys finally. It is one of the joys of my life for doing this book with you, not just doing it, but with you.
Hopefully we can do it in person at some point.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Now I have a reason to fucking go to Italy, or we can force DC to fly Marco's ass to New York at least.
Yeah, I want to come back in USA, but now it's really impossible.
Let's ride out the virus. Let's ride out the virus bullshit. But yeah, I want to meet you guys. We got to get a meal. We got to do all of that shit. It is absolutely such a joy working with you.
Tom, where are you from?
Me? Jersey.
Oh, you're from Jersey. You're in Jersey. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So you're in very different time zones too. I assumed you were in the West Coast.
Yeah, we're spread out.
Yeah, thank God. That's a good thing about the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Philippines, Italy, 2 coasts of the United States.
Yeah.
I used to live in Pennsylvania, like right next to Jersey. The border.
Okay. I'm right on the edge.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where in Jersey?
I live in the woods.
Where at?
I live in the woods. I'm by the Kubert School.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like 15 minutes from there.
I know where that is.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
In fact, I met Tom at Kuber's. You remember Tom? Yeah.
What? That's cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah. It was 2 years ago. Me and Maria Laura, my wife, came to the Kuber School for a meeting with the students to visit this incredible school. And we met Tom. Yeah.
I want to see your wife's work now. Name some books I can go see her work on.
Oh, she worked for DC Comics on Wonder Woman, from
Batwoman.
She worked a lot as cover artist for Dynamite, for example. She's still a young artist, but she's great. And she's growing up very well. I have to say.
Awesome.
Can I give a recommendation for Maria Laura's work, Marco?
Sorry?
Can I recommend one of Maria Laura's books to Geoff?
Yeah, sure.
Geoff, this is all you need to know. Red Sonja and Vampirella meet Betty and Veronica.
So I'm going to buy that book. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
That's all you need.
The longest title.
Good to know.
I don't even know if it's that or if it's Betty and Veronica meet Red Sonja and Vampirella. I mean,
I'll find it. I'll next time you see me, I will have read that book.
A crossover that should have no reason to work.
Yeah.
And yet it does.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are great.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
You guys are great. This is a great book. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, man.
Yeah. I am loving it.
It means a lot.
No joke.
I'm loving it. Thank you.